Now that our DIY banquette bench and coffee bar cabinetry has been built, it is time for us to turn our attention into our upper cabinets. In this video, we build our upper cabinetry out of a beautiful American oak veneer wood, which creates the skeleton of our beautiful dining and coffee bar area. We love working with a material and product that we've never worked with before, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we did.
We're at Timberwood. We've just chosen our panels and they're about to be delivered. This is for our uppers and our coffee bar. It's very exciting to choose them. They're beautiful pieces of wood. Can't wait to get them home. Here we are, we have our sheets home from the factory. This is a beautiful American walnut veneered panel. So we went to the factory to hand select which panels we wanted because you can choose, there's a lot of variation in pattern because of the way they cut the logs. So when you go, you get to decide which patterns you want and make sure you have consistency across your sheets. So we have them here. It's a beautiful deep wooden color. It has a nice ashy undertone, so it really throws brown rather than orange, and we've chosen the clear that will go on top of this. We're going to carry these inside before it starts to rain, and then Brad's going to get started on the uppers. Oh, no, we'll go through the door.
There you go. Lovely.
Too smooth.
So it's safe to say that we are entirely obsessed with these sheets. The finish of this is just spectacular. It's amazing. The cut on these logs is just so beautiful. And we were fortunate enough inside the factory to get all 6 sheets matching from the same batch, which is great. Usually you need to fully order this in stock. So you have to get an order, they'll have to cut it from the same tree so that basically your whole order is made from the same tree and everything is nice and consistent. Whereas these were stock sheets in the factory, and basically any extra that they have over orders or under orders and things like that, they keep in stock. And yeah, we were lucky enough to get a whole batch to ourselves. So 6 full sheets of this crown cut walnut American, so beautiful. I'm very nervous in cutting this all up. Usually when you make a mistake on melamine and MDF, they're like $50 a sheet, whereas these are quite much more expensive. I think around 3 to 4 times the amount. But the finish of them is just spectacular, and in our opinion this is going to be a beautiful piece and well worth the investment, so try not to mess this up.
Now I absolutely won't lie to you, I'm very concerned about messing this up. Every time I start a new project and use really expensive materials, you really want to make sure you get the detail right. And I, by any means necessary, don't really know what I'm doing with these cabinets. I'm really trying to figure out how all of these hinges are going to work. It's not really a conventional setup that we're going for on top of our bench tops. So what we want to do is have our cabinets sit on top of our stone that runs all the way through the bottom. So it won't actually have a base to it. It'll just have sides and then glass cabinet doors. The finish is quite high, so we basically want it to present really high. And for me, when I build conventional cabinets, it's quite easy just to knock some melamine together. But the specific thing about cabinetry, and which is why it's its own trade, and that's why I have qualified joiners, is because there's a huge amount of detail that goes into these cabinets. So what I always like to do with this sort of instance, even with 12 volt wiring, it has to work on paper before it works in the real world. So the detailing all has to be thought out. You want to draw out your finalized plan and then basically reverse engineer it from there. That's how I like to do it. Here I've got my page in front of me. It's full of scribbles. It's just worth taking the time to go into the millimeter detail, figure out what sort of hinge setups you want, how you want the lines to work out, the door joins to work out on your elevation, so that everything looks like it's neat and it's thought in too. So rather than just sort of thrown together and you sort of figure it out as you go, we don't have that luxury with these sheets. I really want to make use of them, cut them well, and have all of the details sorted out.
All right, so the last important thing that I had to figure out before we start to make our first cut here was really consider the grain direction of this timber, which is something you don't really need to think about with melamine. If the shape fits on the board, you can cut it, you can spin it whichever way, but With feature grade timber, you need to make sure that everything's running the right direction so that you've got consistency around the back and the side panels of your cabinet, including the shelves as well. You sort of want everything to be running nicely with the grain. We've got some beautiful knots and features in this timber, so trying to get that crossways, if something doesn't line up, it's going to look really bad and really quick. So a lot of effort and detail to make sure that that's correct. And another massive shout out to Cutlist Optimizer. It's an amazing program to be able to figure all that out. You can pick the grain direction and all of your pieces that you put together into your materials. So I used a stock selection of 6 of these sheets, put in all of the measurements that I need for my 3 cabinets, and it fits out everything in terms of grain direction that needs to be cut into these panels in the least wastage possible, which is pretty good considering there's not much you can do sometimes with trying to follow grain. So that has helped out massively to me figuring out how to cut it all. So here we go.
I'm not supposed to be here.
She's not meant to be here. I was just meant to do a little video, and then Samantha comes walking in with her cup of tea, singing songs, as you could probably hear before. Now, this isn't some elaborate mime setup. This is just some cotton gloves I'm wearing because I found in the last couple of sheets that I've been cutting, my little oily fingers have been kind of staining the timber because it's so thin. It's just like less than a mil veneer. So any moisture, anything, it basically just sucks it right up because it's so thin. So just to get my oily mitts off of the timber panels while we sort of cut everything in and fix it together, I'm just going to be using these little cotton gloves, which are...
Dirty boy.
Which, before I was really interrupted, the same gloves we use for hanging curtains, just so it's, you know, there's no dust and rubbish that gets transferred onto them. So this will do the trick for now. Just about to cut up the last of the sheets, and then I'll start doing all the small cuts and putting these things together.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Now, before we get on to anything else, obviously you can probably hear, hopefully, we have had a bit of a microphone upgrade. In one of our recent videos, we went to the International Garden Festival. We thought it would be super awkward if we were to be running around this enormous festival with a camera with this huge big microphone thing attached to the side of it. Didn't really feel right, and kind of been eyeing these things off for a really long time. So hopefully you guys get a much better experience through the videos. Hopefully it won't be so noisy and airy throughout some of our videos. And yeah, we hope to make the quality a little bit better as we move forward. But getting back to things, as you can see here, I've finished cutting the rest of these shelves out of these timbers. Took a lot of time. Way more time than I usually spend on cutting cabinets because I really just wanted to get these measurements right. And even still, I managed to stuff up a couple, but it's going to get kind of work to my favor, I think. Luckily, some of them are a little bit longer, so I can trim them back, which is always good. But we've got everything set out here. We're going to start to assemble these cabinets now, but definitely going to be taking a little bit more time in assembling these because I have to get them really millimeter perfect. We're going to be doing a dowel system for the whole thing. That's how I've set up the whole thing to be glued and joined together. So no exposed screws, nothing like that. Everything is basically internally doweled and pulled together, almost like an IKEA cabinet, but just without those little tightening screws. So what we've got here is all of our shelves, some of the side cabinets, and you can see behind me here, I've got one side piece already installed. Just trying to trim it, each of them before we start to assemble the whole cabinet to make sure that I get the heights just perfect with our roof. It's not 100% all the way through here, but we'll be able to try and pick that nice little line across the top and make sure it all fits, and then put our quad around the top there to finish it off. What we've got here, some stains on this timber. So it looks quite flat and quite matte finish just to begin with. It's actually a really lovely color. It's just beautiful. Fairly obsessed with this finish at the moment. But at the moment, we're just trying to play around with either more of a chocolatey stain to really bring those browns through, or more of a clear stain so that we can try and keep some of this grain patterns. So playing around with some things before we make a full decision. A couple of samples, always recommend doing that. But in the meantime, I can start to assemble these, and then once they're finished, we can stand them up and then fix them off. I'm going to be going into a little bit of a quick step-by-step guide as to how we're going to be doweling these together.
Awesome. Do you want me to leave you alone? Just a quick side note. I'm going to talk into your microphone. Just a quick side note.
You don't need to get that close.
We had to take Chai for a bath this morning.
Chai, come here.
And he looks, look how fluffy he looks.
Turns out we had a huge loaf of bread this whole time.
A multi-grain loaf of bread. He looks so fluffy, he's clean as a whistle.
Okay, so to start these dowels, we're going to lay these two pieces flat that we want and join them together like this. We're going to make sure that everything's lined up perfectly on the bottom and make sure I cut the length on the top, right, which I have here, which is good. Then you want to measure and mark out every spot that you would like a dowel. So here I'm going to be doing them in 300mm centers all the way along the top. Then using a ruler, I'm going to be drawing a line over both of these pieces so that we have a nice straight line, like so. Now, because I have these set up like so, we're marking center of our sheet on this face all the way down. Then on the other sheet, we're going to be squaring down the thickness of the panel. We'll mark exactly halfway so we get it right in the middle, and then hole punch all of our centers. Now once you've got all of your holes punched, do a pre-drill bit just to make sure that we're going to get a nice drill all the way through. But the hard thing here is to line it up and not drill it on an angle. Now, to drill the rest of the dowel size out, which is in this instance an 8mm bit, I've made up a little bit of a jig here so that it helps make sure that the drill bit is nice and centered in between our panel here, which is 19mm exactly. And also to help with the depth, you can see here that we've put a little bit of masking tape onto this drill here, which makes sure that you drill the right depth and not go too far and lose half the dowel in the first piece. So this is set perfectly to have about 2/3 of the dowel in the board here and then about 1/3 in the other panel, which is only really can drill about 9mm deep. And then our second drill bit with a new mark on it. Put all of our dowels in. And pop our side piece on like this. Now, it's going to need some gentle persuasion. Maybe a little bit less gentle and more brittle. Perfect. Then you have yourself a nice join all the way through, which is really good. Basically, nice neat join on the bottom. And no fixings on the face. And now for the exact same process on a piece we prepared earlier. Now that we have basically the whole thing dry fit set up, we're happy with the dowels, where they're sitting, everything's sitting nice and flush. We're going to be going right through the middle here with our center divider, because of course we're going to have door on each side, and then do the exact same process with the dividing panel and all the shelves all the way up the middle. So there's a lot of measuring, a lot of figuring out to make sure that we align the holes up perfectly, get the right center for the shelves, because there's no adjustment. If you do it a little bit on the angle, it's going to stay on the angle. So definitely worth the time getting it right. And then basically once we get this center piece and the shelves in, I'll basically retake off the sides, and then we'll do our beautiful iron-on edging along the top here while it's in situ. It's so much easier to do it in place like this rather than having to fiddle around with all the bits and pieces, and then do a full assembly of it. Now, by far one of the most annoying and most intricate and difficult parts with doweling is getting these holes right. If you muck up one of these things by like 1 millimeter or 2, the dowels don't line up, things get really tight when you try to put all the shelves together. So it's really, really important to take your time when marking out dowels, just to make sure you get it right. Otherwise, you'll find pretty quickly that everything that you try to put together is just not going to fit. So it's really, really critical that everything lines up perfectly. Now I've made quite an effort to get all of these right, spent a lot of time getting all the dowels set up perfectly. Now we just have to drill 54 holes. Pretty straightforward, but definitely same sort of thing. When you're drilling, you want to make sure the drill's sitting nice and straight, otherwise your dowels are going to sit all wonky and then they still won't match even if they're lined up perfectly. So a little bit of an intricate system here, but the finish on it is spectacular because you don't see any screws. So let's sit down, get set up and start drilling because it's going to take a little while. Now, because we're only dry fitting these ones, I'm not going to bother putting the dowels in the bottom here. It's too difficult to get these tiny little shelves in together with trying to get dowels in the bottom, dowels on the sides, on both sides. There's a very specific way that this is going to want to be assembled. So just to make my life easy for now, we're just going to do the side dowels for now, just to make sure everything fits together properly. And then after we're ready to do a full glue, we're going to have to fully prep these boards anyway. So there's going to be taking each of them apart, sanding them all down properly with an orbital sander. Oh, if I can get that in there. And then of course, doing a full stain and then we'll assemble everything. Otherwise, it's going to be way too hard to get in all these little cracks and crevices through a little brush. It's going to be easier just to do it all individually. So just to make sure I get all this right, we're only just going to pop a couple of dowels in. That should help us line it up nicely. All right, let's see if we can stand this huge thing up. It's pretty heavy. You need Samantha to give me a hand. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's solid, all right. Oh! Doesn't that look a bit flash?
To me it looks like a real life shelf.
Like it belongs somewhere in a shop.
Yeah.
I can picture this in a bookshop somewhere.
They would be so lucky to have this in a bookshop, Brad. July, hello.
Careful, we won't be able to get on YouTube if you keep singing like that.
You want me to lift it onto the block?
I do.
Okay.
Alright, ready? I'll give you a bit of weight.
Yeah.
That's it, leave it there.
Okay.
Here we have it. You can see it's quite large when you hear the perspective of it sitting on top of our bench tops here, but this is the fully assembled unit here. Obviously it's all dry fit together. We haven't done any gluing yet, so we will definitely take all these apart and then individually sand down and clear each of them. It'll make sure that we get a really nice finish on all of these sides. And then we'll have obviously the operation of pulling it all back together again, gluing it. And then we've got the last two little pieces yet to go for these cabinets, which is one going to be these LED light strips. Going to run an internal LED strip all the way up the internal side at the back here, so it shines a bit, hopefully from both sides across, which will look really nice and backlight all of our nice glasses and things like that for our cocktail area, and anything that's on display is going to have a really nice finish to it, which is awesome. And then we've got some nice beautiful glass doors to go on the front of it too. So I'm going to be using the same material here with a bit of a border, and then it's going to have a full glass piece on the inside. And to get that nice fluted or reeded glass look, we're going to actually be using a film on that glass too. So it won't be fully see-through. It'll be a little bit more translucent with a bit of that sort of curvy texture without having to pay a premium for the glass. So definitely stick around for a couple of these exciting projects coming up. Hope you guys enjoyed it and stick around for the next one. See you soon.